Hey, hope you're doing well. Hope you've had a productive week. I can appreciate, though, that there may be things that have happened in this past week for you that maybe didn't go the way you'd hoped they'd go. Maybe you didn't get the outcomes you were hoping for. Thing is, I don't know that that was unproductive time. You know, even if you don't achieve the goal you had set out to achieve, the time you spent attempting that thing, trying that thing, that was productive time. You're learning things. You're taking things in, and so much of the sense that we've wasted our time um, is really how what we put into it. It's up to us as to whether that was wasted time or not. Several years ago, I was helping a friend write his autobiography. He had an interesting story about how he grew up in a foreign land from Canada and led a lifestyle that just was completely alien to my own. We worked on it for months and months and months. We would talk all day, and then I would write up the chapters of the book. Um, and eventually we got to the first draft and did some edits, and he did some edits, and we played with the story a little bit. And he eventually took it, and has been working to try to get it published. A mutual friend of ours, a while later, um, was asking me about it. How'd it go? How'd the writing go? What's come of it? And I was like, well, we haven't published yet. Don't know if we will, but we haven't. And that mutual friend got kind of angry of like, well, that was a complete waste of your time. And I'm like, I don't see it that way. I had an opportunity to try writing ghost writing an autobiography. I'd never done that before. I got to know our mutual friend that much better because I got to hear his story. And I got to explore writing his voice, writing his story, and writing his experiences, which were things I had never done myself. Some of it was about, his sexual development. Some of it was about drug use and everything he had gotten into, much of which was not my history. So it was an opportunity for me to step inside someone else, someone who existed, someone who I knew, and really begin to figure out how to craft those words, how to craft those stories, and capture the experiences he had, the imageries that he had, the emotional state that he had that was not my own. So unlike our mutual friend who thought I basically on my behalf was angry because he felt I had wasted my time, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as a great learning experience. And to this day, even if that book never gets published, I'm grateful for the experience, and grateful for the time I was able to spend and really get to know that friend. More recently, the daughter of a friend of mine, who's a different friend, who's in college here in Toronto, was complaining that she's taking these writing classes and that she really didn't feel like she was getting much out of them, that the instructors were talking about things that were unimportant to her. And so my buddy asked me, if I was willing to offer an opinion. And so we got together, the three of us, and I said, so I hear you're struggling with some of your classes, trying to figure out the relevance of them. And she was like, yeah, the instructor just, they talk about stuff that's either obvious or is unimportant to me. Like it doesn't affect the writing I want to do. Or they're talking about some aspect of writing that I don't really care about. And I said, well, I get that. I get that. I teach classes. I'm not necessarily, everything I teach isn't necessarily going to be germane to that any individual student at any individual moment. But I said, is it that they're not giving you what you want, or that you're just not seeing what you can learn from this? And she sort of queried that. And I said, well, what can you learn from that experience? What can you take from that lesson? Maybe it's not the point that the instructor, the teacher, the professor was trying to make to you, but you're still being exposed to all this other literature. You're still being exposed to all these other writers. Is there nothing in what they've written that you can take away, or your classmates, the experiences, the assignments, and that type of thing? Is there nothing you can challenge yourself with on these assignments to do the assignment as required so you get the marks because you want the grade, but challenge yourself to discover something in this work? You may not necessarily see why it's applicable yet, but there's always, I firmly believe, there's always something you can learn. There's always some new way you can look at things that maybe don't make a lot of sense right away, but you can reframe them. And she sort of hemmed and hawed. She didn't reject it outright. It was something for her to think about. And she admitted she had never considered that. She had never thought in those terms. All she ever saw was the curriculum that the instructor was trying to give her, a curriculum that she didn't really connect with, but needed the courses to graduate the program. I think that's the thing for any of us. It doesn't really matter what you do, whether it's an art, capital A art, whether you're being capital C creative, whatever you do, whatever you get into, right? The time you spend on that thing is educational. The time you spend not on that thing is educational. Another friend recently made some noise about, said something, sorry, I don't mean to offend my friend, about, applying himself to the things he needed to do versus just vegetating on YouTube or something like that. Welcome to YouTube. And I said, yeah, but you got to remember, rest is part of doing your thing. Rejuvenating yourself, refreshing yourself, not doing your thing is part of doing your thing. And goodness knows if you're in the room, in the moment with the videos that you're watching, there might be something in them. I totally get the idea that sometimes we just completely vegetate, that YouTube videos can play or anything like that can play, and we're not paying any attention. Our brain is kind of quieting down. And that's helpful. But, when you're watching something, when you're seeing something, the news or just strange clips about otters, which is something I watched recently, or ferrets. You're never going wrong with a ferret video. There might be something in that. There might be something in that that's applicable to you today, tomorrow, a month from now, right? It's about being open. It's about actually being engaged in whatever it is you're doing, even if you don't necessarily know what the outcome's supposed to be, or if it's going to be anything close to what you were hoping it would be. I'm constantly learning. Doing these videos, I'm constantly learning. I'm learning about my own voice. I'm learning about the way I want to tell stories, and I want to talk to people about stuff. And the feedback people are starting to give me on these videos as they discover these things exist is really great. It's really helpful. I'm hearing positive feedback, and I look forward to negative feedback as well. Again, whether you think you've wasted your time or something is a waste of time, that's up to you. That's an attitude thing for you. No one else can dictate that. So, if you're open to the idea that there might be a lesson in this and that you don't necessarily need to know what that lesson is right away, it could just be something that percolates in the back of your mind for a while, or eventually becomes part of a series of things and it becomes a pattern that you start to notice. It's that openness to the possibility that makes for nothing to be a wasted experience. Hopefully, 9.5 minutes in, you don't see this as a wasted experience. Hopefully something works for you. If not today, tomorrow, a week from now. Something will tweak, hopefully. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I hope you really feel energized by what's going on around you. Take care.